Hi, welcome to the MacIver Report. It's February 28th, 2025. I'm Bill Osmulski, MacIver Institute Content Director. I am joined by...
Michael Lucas, Policy Analyst, and now Chief Economist.
All right, you finally accepted that. Great. We'll have to get you new business cards, probably.
Yeah.
We haven't gotten you original business cards yet, no. Anyway, hey, so thanks for joining us today. Really busy week, always going to be, who knows when it's ever going to slow down. Even in times of seasonality when it's supposed to be slow, politics and public policy never seems to be slow anymore, which is why we've got so much always going on our website. And we're going to go through some of our top stories for the past week and some other themes that have been popping up. Right now, we are fully into budget season. The governor gave his budget address. Was it only last week?
I guess so.
It might only have been last week. So, yeah, governor's giving his budget address. That sets off the main process. Right now, the legislature is going over his budget and writing their own. And within the next couple weeks, they'll be calling the heads of agencies like DPI, DHS, the big ones. Not all of them. There's 56 of them. But they'll be having hearings where they get testimony from the agency heads and ask some tough questions. This story, Mike and I talked about this one briefly last week, but it's worth talking about again because in part we put it up on Facebook finally within the last couple of days, and tons of people are really catching on to this one and sharing it and commenting. Look, and this is a conservative estimate, but we put it at, Governor Evers is telling everybody he's cutting taxes by $2 billion. And we went through the budget the best we could. I mean, it's an 1,800-page document. But one of the big things that is really important for people to understand is taxes are only part of government spending that impacts you. You have taxes, you have fees, and you have local tax authority. So sometimes when politicians say, oh, we're going to cut taxes, by $1 billion, for example, they might go and increase fees by $1 billion. So it's a wash, but they get to go out there and tell you how much they're fighting for you. So what we saw, just brief overview. 2 years from now, when the budget's done, if we were to accept Governor Evers' budget, the tax level would be 2.5 times, $2.4 billion higher than it is now. If you look at both years of the budget and combine them, Governor Evers' proposal would lower taxes by $894 million, not $2 billion. And it would actually increase taxes by $5.4 billion. Now, some of that's because the economy is going to grow, so it's not fair to say that he's raising taxes, and that's just how much more tax revenue the state would be bringing in. $3.3 billion of that, though, is what is politely called revenue enhancements. That's a screen capture from his budget of all the revenue enhancement measures he's got. There's a lot of them. The biggest one is creating a new tax bracket for people over $1 million. And like I said, Mike and I went through all this last week, so we aren't going to go over it again. But something else to keep in mind, fees. Evers wants to increase hospital assessment fees by $3.3 billion. Now that's to benefit Medicaid. And so he's going to take $3.3 billion from the hospitals in order to give $3.3 billion to the hospitals. So great, circular liberal logic. What that means is it's going to encourage hospitals to take people who are on Medicaid, and they're going to have to raise prices on other people. So if you aren't on Medicaid, your insurance and your costs are going to go up in order to fund that.
Yep.
Hunting and fishing licenses are going up. Car titles, driver's license fees are going up. Now, here are the ones now that aren't in the budget, or you won't see actual numbers in the budget for this, for the most part. Local tax authority. He wants the county sales tax, counties to be able to increase their sales tax by another 0.5%, and cities to be able to create a sales tax up to 5%. So that's going to result in a lot of a much higher tax burden around the states, but it's not going to be on the state's actual ledger, so he's able to kind of brush that off. And then also with that 402-year veto that he did last time, where he made sure that every school district could increase their revenue limit by $325 each year. So that's on, $325 this year, $325 on top of that the next year, and on top of that the next year for every student for 400 years. Well, now he wants to index that to inflation. So that way, next year it would be the ceiling would go up $334 per pupil. And the year after that, it would go up another $345 per pupil, and then onward for 402 years. So, I said a mouthful there, Mike. What did you have any? What were your thoughts as we're running through this list?
So, well, the most recent thing you mentioned, the $345 per pupil. When I first heard about this, it was really confusing to me because I wasn't sure if it was just every single year you get an additional $345 per pupil, or, and this is what it actually is that next year you get an additional $345 per kid. Yeah. The year after that, you get $345 plus another $345. And the year after, you get $345 plus $345 plus another $345. So it's compounding and it's increasing every single year.
That's right. You're adding to the pile, and Mike and I were talking about this earlier, just how different the budget can be. A really confusing document because of dynamics like this. There are parts of the budget where it's, you're adding to the pile every year. There are other parts of the budget where this is what you're getting this year, and next year you're going to be getting this much more than this year, and then the year after that you're going to be getting this much more than this first year.
Right. It is really hard to figure out, like, okay, what's the total, or what's the increase, or is this an increase to an increase? Like, yeah, it gets messy. We figured it out, but they don't make it easy.
Yeah, so in our budget coverage, we're always trying to make sure that we're cluing you guys in exactly, what is being meant by this part of the budget with this particular language. Because, for example, we've got, when Governor Evers, we point out here that it's actually, $894 million tax cut. But when Governor Evers says, I'm going to cut taxes by $2 billion, he doesn't mean that the annual amount of taxes is going to go down $2 billion. He means the annual amount of taxes is going to get down $1 billion, but because it's a 2-year budget, I'm going to count that as $2 billion. So it's, depending on who you're talking to, when you're talking to them, what part of the budget you're talking to, all those relationships can change, and it gets very confusing, very frustrating. But that's something that we've been doing this for a long time at MacIver. So, we've got this. We got it. The idea is, when we're, the trick is to communicate that, articulate that to our readers, and I think we do a pretty good job at that. So, Governor Evers' budget, he claims his budget is still realistic. The Republicans who really, drive this process now. I mean, Evers doesn't get to pass the budget bill; he just gets to make changes to whatever budget bill the legislature passes. So legislature says, yeah, that's a nice budget proposal. Tony, we're going to throw that in the trash, and we're going to start over from scratch because your ideas stink. So Evers, I don't know where he comes off on this. Oh, my budget's not dead on arrival. Yeah, look, the people that are going to throw it in the trash are telling you they're throwing it in the trash. And then, he's worried about all these federal changes. So a lot of Governor Evers' budget is based off of old federal policy. Like, we want everybody on Medicaid is essentially, a liberal policy. Mm-hmm. Trump and the Republicans in Congress are trashing all those policies.
Yeah.
So Evers wants to expand Medicaid because the feds will reimburse you for that expansion by 90%. Mm-hmm. They're already, and that's what his budget is based on. The Republicans in Washington are already talking about decreasing that to 50% reimbursement. So already, what happens in Washington is going to impact all these things that Evers wants in his budget. He's living in a fantasy land where Biden is still president, and all these, enormous government spending and federal subsidies are still, guaranteed. Not the case anymore. And Republicans in Wisconsin have done a really good job hedging our bets in the state, saying, look, that deal might sound great right now in 2015, but in 2025, the federal government might not be honoring that same deal and we'll be stuck on it with it.
Yeah.
So by that cautious approach has really put us in a strong position, and Governor Evers still wants to pretend like that's not the case.
Yeah. And if from last time we talked about this too, that's $9 billion in a single year. The total budget, which is a 2-year budget, increases spending by $20.7 billion.
Oh yeah,
right? So the current biennial budget is $99.3 billion, right? Somewhere around there.
Yeah, so it's
and
all
then the
funds.
one he proposed is 120.
Yeah, that's right. So that's a 2-year combination. That's not an annual
Yeah.
increase. So yeah, good catch. All right, another thing Governor Evers made news for over the past week. On like page 1700 of the 2,000-page budget bill, you start to see things like this, where he crosses out the word mother or wife, and you're now inseminated and inseminated person and person who inseminated the inseminated person.
Yeah.
So this got a lot of attention nationally, bit of a national embarrassment. But again, this is why it's a great idea to not just throw out the governor's budget. It's good to talk about it for a couple weeks at least.
Yeah, and it's like he went on TV, did some interviews where he was like, "Oh no, I'm just trying to, include people who may, do IVF, like in vitro fertilization and something like that." But it's like, no. Okay, but really, that's your approach? I don't think so. This is clearly a nod or like a gimme to people in the LGBT.
Yeah, that's right. Because you'd be a trans man and be
right,
inseminated.
Inseminated, yeah.
Well, and this is
you could identify as male and be pregnant. It doesn't make you a woman. Right? That's obviously.
Except for in Evers' mind in the liberal world,
but that's obvious. I mean, no one buys it. Everyone knows what his real motivation is, except for all the people on the left who say, "Oh, it's this." It's like, well, what's wrong with it? If we're right, what's wrong with that, right? Isn't this your worldview where it's perfectly okay, and yet people aren't coming out and saying that, right? They're saying no, it's just more inclusive of IVF women.
Well, and and this is a screen capture directly from Evers' own budget, where he crosses off the word wife, says inseminated, crosses off the word husband and puts spouse.
If
crosses off the word mother and says inseminated person.
Yeah, like you could have a good case if he crossed out wife and put woman.
Oh yeah.
Right?
Sure.
Could have done that. Like wife is sort of you don't have to be married in order to be pregnant.
Yeah, why?
Right? But he didn't do that. He changed it to person and inseminated.
Well, and part of the reason why I wanted to show the screen capture here was because when he was asked about this from Fox up in Wausau, his knee jerk was, "Oh, Republicans are lying." What do you mean Republicans are lying? It's right there. It is your bill. You're typing. You cross off the word mother. You put in there inseminated person. That was you. That's not a Republican lie. They pointed to your document and said, "This is what it says."
Yeah.
So that's that's just standard. That's a standard liberal response. Republicans are lying. Okay. Moving on. John Jagler. I sat down with Senator John Jagler this week to break down Evers' Year of the Kid and went through some of the inside baseball. Some great insight there. We the Newsmakers podcast. We do these periodically. I think this one turned out pretty good. One of the things that was you'll want to hear from Senator Jagler. So but we were talking about the last budget, how leading up to the budget, Republicans and Governor Evers sat down and they hammered out a lot of deals. They hammered out the school choice reimbursement rates going up. The Milwaukee bailout was what really spurred a lot of these negotiations. Cities and counties got a huge reimbursement rate. They started getting a cut out of the sales tax, so their state aid really went up. And this was all hammered out with Governor Evers beforehand. Including, what they were going to do with education funding. So that after the budget was signed, though, after it was passed, Governor Evers went with his veto pen, and he created that 402-year education funding increase.
Yeah.
I mean, he stabbed them in the back. They had a deal, a handshake agreement. Hey, this is what we're going to do. We all agree. Great, let's go. As soon as he got chased, he stabbed him in the back. That, you get to do that once.
Yeah.
Fool me once, versus fool me twice.
Yeah, you've lost any sort of goodwill there. Like, why would the Republicans make any sort of deal with you now?
Exactly. So Jagler and I talk about that.
They're going to present the budget they want. If you veto it, then okay, then it's just a continuing.
Yeah. So I mean, what happened last budget was Evers demonstrated that he cannot be trusted, he can't be negotiated with, and he's got no shame, and he will stab you in the back.
Yeah.
That is going to impact how the budget is put together this time.
Yeah.
So like I said, talk about that. That was like one of the highlights, I think, of the conversation, talking about that. So check out that podcast. And then also, we were just talking about Medicaid changes. You know how the government feds right now cover 90%, and they're talking about lowering that to 50%. Well, this is becoming, a cause celeb for Democrats who want to, or cause du jour.
Yeah.
For Democrats who want to, they're railing, Republicans want to cut off Medicaid, and you got Tammy Baldwin saying you want to kick grandmothers out of their nursing homes, and you want higher costs for seniors off. They're just making stuff up.
Yeah.
And Congressman Tiffany's, what this came down to was Congress is working on budget bills right now. They need to cut down. They need to cut spending. Because we're $34 trillion in debt. So you got to cut spending, say we can cut our deficits, so we can eventually start taking care of this debt before the country goes bankrupt. Now,
or more bankrupt.
Well, this is, and you could address this a little bit about, liberals believing America can't go bankrupt. But so part of this is, okay, we need to find savings. And a lot of this is, there's so much fraud, we just start eliminating the fraud. And, there's a lot of people collecting Medicaid benefits that shouldn't be on Medicaid, so they just take those away. You're cutting Medicaid! Yeah. And then it jumps to, you're trying to, kick grandma out of her nursing home.
It's like, I am kicking off grandma, but I'm kicking off a dead grandma or someone who was never a grandma. Like, what do you... So just this abuse of language and a conflation of terms, and you're not listening to what conservatives are saying or actually being honest about what they're doing, which is eliminating fraud. People who should not be getting money, who are not entitled to receive benefits of this kind.
Now, Mike, you've heard the theory from Democrats that America can't go bankrupt.
Yes.
Walk us through that real quick.
It changes based on who is, the person presenting the theory.
Of course, because that's how it all,
Yeah, so it's hard to say anything consistent, but usually what it amounts to is the government can't go bankrupt because it has a monopoly on the creation of money. So you can just print whatever money you need.
Throughout the world, though, because of America's unique position.
Right, yeah. I mean, even if we weren't, the reserve currency of the world, they would probably still argue, like, well, that doesn't matter either because, okay, the dollar is devalued, right, when we print more, but it all balances out, right? You'll just need more dollars to pay for it. So, like, if you have, $1 trillion worth of debt in real terms, you can just, print money to pay it off, and sure, that, devalues the dollar further, but you eliminated the debt.
Yeah.
Right? So like they're literally just thinking about it from an accounting standpoint. They're not thinking about it in terms of like real effects, which is that would devalue your currency significantly, right? We between February 2020 and like April 2022, right? So about 2.5 years, let's say. During lockdowns, we printed more than $6 trillion. We increased the money supply by 40%. And what happened to the dollar? It depreciated. And what happened to prices? Prices went up. And, MMTers and people on the left who subscribe to this would say, okay, sure, maybe that happened, but it doesn't matter because you can just get rid of your debt by printing money. Yeah, so it doesn't matter.
I get a feeling like
all prices are going to adjust to this new reality.
So you aren't one of those people that believes that debt is a product.
No, yeah.
You can't repackage it and sell it off. And
Yeah.
We produce debt as a country. That's our chief export.
Yeah, and there's a school of thought in economics called MMT. It's modern monetary theory. It's not modern at all. It's just like a rehash of an economic school of thought from like the 1800s, a British school, and they said is really the exact same thing. And a weird aspect of this theory is that money is debt. Money is debt.
Money is debt. So if you produce debt, you're producing money.
Right. So it's really convoluted and it doesn't make a lot of sense. But that's sort of what these people are drawing from, I guess, drawing on.
Yeah.
It's nonsense. It ignores all the consequences that would inevitably occur if you decided to just print $36 trillion to pay off the outstanding debt. I mean, it'd ruin us. It has been ruining us. And we only printed $6 trillion.
Well, staying on top of this, money flying around everywhere, the Legislative Audit Bureau, so the Joint Committee on, or Legislative Audit Committee, has ordered two more audits from the Legislative Audit Bureau. The Legislative Audit Bureau is a nonpartisan, independent, professional organization within the legislature. So they got two questions. They want to know where the $44 billion in grants went that came to Wisconsin, and Governor Evers got to decide however he wanted to spend it. That was all like COVID aid and things like that. So They want to know exactly where that money went and how Evers decided to distribute that money. And then the other question was Department of Public Instruction. They lowered their achievement standards to kind of hide low achievement in Wisconsin. So that's the other audit they want.
Yeah.
Josh Call, our Attorney General, he's facing an ethics complaint and lawsuit for corruption. So he's got an ethics complaint and a separate lawsuit. This all goes back to the same thing, though. Mike Bloomberg, a number of years ago, set up a special action center at New York University where it's fighting climate change through legal action. So the deal that Bloomberg's got is any state attorney general that wants a lawyer for free, I will send you the lawyer. I will pay that lawyer's salary. All you have to give me is let that lawyer just file lawsuits related to climate change and use your office title as part of that. So it won't be Michael Bloomberg suing the dairy farmers of Wisconsin for cow farts. It will be the state of Wisconsin suing dairy farmers for cow farts. So that is the quid pro quo here. Oh yeah, quid pro quo, that's illegal. You're receiving something of value in exchange for something. So that's the ethics complaint, and the lawsuit is actually from all the dairy farmers saying, all these regulations, you're just hitting us with these rules violations that we didn't even do. And that's also how this is playing out is it's not always the state of Wisconsin directly suing dairy farmers. It's them representing the DNR who is now attacking dairy farmers. So wonderful situation, but calling some attention to that, and hopefully this leads to something. At least, leaves a mark on his illustrious career.
Yeah.
All right, Milwaukee Public Schools, they were ordered to return the resource officers to schools. Resource officers are police officers. It's a nice name for police officers, making sure that your students don't stab each other and mug the teachers in the parking lot.
Yep.
MPS says, they make our students feel uncomfortable because our students are all prejudiced against cops for some reason. Now, there were conversations that, I agree, I happen to agree with, of, a judge orders you to do something and you don't do it, that's contempt of court, you go to jail. But for some reason, if you're a government official and you tell the judge to go pound sand, nothing ever happens.
Yeah.
So the argument here was, look, the judge specifically had ordered MPS, you will do this by this date. And MPS essentially said, yeah, we aren't doing that. It was, officials within MPS saying that. It's, the district building itself can't say that.
Yeah.
So this was a human being that said, I'm not doing what that judge, we are not going to do what that judge told us to do. So we were hoping that, hey, well, let's see an MPS official be let out in handcuffs and thrown in jail for contempt of court. Didn't happen.
No.
Justice, all right, I'm going to move the deadline up to March 15th, and I'm going to fine MPS $1,000 a day until they bring the cops back in the schools, but I'll waive all that if you actually do it by March 15th. Are they going to do it by March 15th? Mike, what do you think?
No.
No, of course not.
Why would they? $1,000 a day? That's nothing.
Yeah, that's right. And you just use it as an excuse to tell the state capitol, tell the legislature why you need more money.
Yeah, and in this article on the show, Ben Young, who wrote this piece for us, was saying MPS, lost like $40-something million not too long ago, and just didn't care. So what's $1,000 a day to them?
Yeah.
Yeah. How about $10,000 a day or $100,000 a day, and increasing by the same amount every day?
Or that and throw the school officials in jail one by one as they say we aren't putting cops back in the schools.
Yeah.
That'd be a good incentive. All right, well, we're on course. Supreme Court race. Hey, this thing's still going. I might have exaggerated a little bit when several months ago when I said this is going to be a $100 million race. Right now it's at $18 million. I don't know, maybe
could have been.
Yeah,
it increased very, very quickly. It started off at $2 million and it's increased tenfold. So
yeah, and I mean over the next 2 or 3 weeks, they're still fundraising. It's they are still going to be money is pouring in from all over the country. This is a huge race. I mean, you got Elon Musk involved in it. You got George Soros involved in it. I mean, this is
Pritzker as well.
Yeah, I mean, this is for control of Congress. It's not supposed to be. I mean, it just shows you just how corrupt our Supreme Court is right now. That's even an issue that's on the table. But we know that because this is part of Susan Crawford's campaign was, hey, if you get me elected to the Wisconsin Supreme Court, bring a lawsuit. Bring a lawsuit about the congressional maps. We're going to throw them out. We're going to draw out the Republicans.
And we'll draw the maps.
Yeah, we're going to redraw the maps so that there's fewer Republicans. We don't need any legal basis because we're liberals and we just liberal judges write the law on the fly, whatever they're told that needs to be what cause needs to be advanced. So. Yeah,
but this is coming up. That's April 1st, right?
April 1st.
Yeah, 1 month.
Do or die. All right, so we're going to talk a little bit about a couple national stories that weren't on our that we didn't get to on our website. But a big thing right now is all these military retirements. Trump is he's cleaning house a little bit, and people are freaking out over these old officers that are getting retired. This is Linda Fagan, age 61, looks kind of geriatric there. This is from a couple years ago. And then the other one was we have Admiral Lisa Franchetti, the first female chief of naval operations, and General C.Q. Brown, the first black Air Force officer who was chief of staff. You'll notice, so Linda Fagan, 61, Brown is 62, Franchetti is 60. That's the age you get kicked out of the Army. You get kicked out of the military. You get pushed out. You are 60, 61, 62. Look, retirement age for officers in the Army, in the military, is 62. If you're a general, you can push that out to 64. Most of them don't, but that you do have that ability. Mark, you can get deferred until you're 68, but nobody serves till they're 68.
Yeah.
Mark Milley was like one of the oldest chiefs of staff, one of the oldest generals in the Army in the past 40 years. Probably the oldest in the past 40 years. He retired at 65.
Yeah.
So you're there. You are at retirement age. It is time for you to make way for the next generation. This is something everybody goes through in their career. It's painful. You would like to think, I'm going to be 61 forever, and I'll never have to, and I'm just going to keep moving. No, you're done. Your career is over. You had a great career, but also, Trump has to clean house.
Yeah.
We had a, you and I have been talking about this. I mean, this was, Woodward. The Woodward's book about what happened in 2021. The investigative report, and it was Milley in January 2021 while Trump was still president. I mean, the guy launched a coup d'état, a successful one.
Yeah.
Where he told all the military, which is supposed to be under civilian control, you don't do anything that the president tells you to do unless you come to me first and I okay it.
Right. Yeah.
Just completely took over the military.
Yeah. Huge.
So. And there was a time where he went around the room and he says, you agree with this? You agree with that? And Woodward described this as a loyalty oath.
Yeah.
You got to clear house. You got to find out who all those people were who agreed that, okay, General Milley, whatever you say, I'm not going to do what the president tells me to do. I'm following your orders from now on. That's so. I mean, that right there is why Trump has to clean house.
Yeah.
Because everybody that stood for that, it's got to go.
Yeah. He's commander in chief. He's the boss. They're
Yeah. And, it's obviously, I mean, Obama cleaned house. He got rid of all the conservative generals. And so this is what we've got now. So,
yeah.
but yeah, so, I mean, all the people are making hay about, trying to, make hay about, 62-year-old admirals being shown the door. Look, that's life. That is life in the military.
That's standard, run of the mill, and guarantee that all of these people start, campaigning for the next Democrat.
No, naturally, right? Of course.
Yeah,
there'll be contributors on CNN, and they'll be part of those letters of 52 retired flag officers.
52 retired conservative flag officers come out against Trump. It's like, okay, join Liz Cheney.
Yeah. All right, here's the other national story we want to talk about.
Oh yeah,
Epstein release. This is a lot of people are disappointed by this. This is a photo op. Here's your binder of all the Epstein files. This is essentially what it was. For these podcasts, we post links to all of our stories at the bottom. At the very bottom of that, I put the link to the Department of Justice release where you could pull up all these documents for yourself. But, spoiler alert, you've seen them. If it's something you're interested in, you've already seen them. All this stuff has already been online. It's like they just print them off and put them in a binder and say, here's our official release. I mean, most of them you can't even read. A lot of initials and code here. These are the flight logs. You could ask Grok or ChatGPT what's in them, and you're going to find out that there's really nothing in them.
Yeah. But, okay, go ahead, and then I'll say something.
No, it's just, this is something, the American people want transparency.
Yeah.
The Trump administration has got a lot of support and excitement from people when they say things like, we're going to declassify everything. We're declassifying the Kennedy files. We're declassifying the Epstein files. And then all of a sudden it's like, I don't know what happens when you get in that chair. It's like, oh, geez, this is really bad. We better not do this, or this guy really disrupt the country. I mean, look, this is, the American people want to see this.
Yeah.
We don't care what's in it. It's just, this is, this is not, the government can't be keeping secrets from the people like this. And if this is going to be something that's going to have going to have a chain reaction throughout government, if, you're going to have, tons of people going to jail or whose careers are going to be ruined that, we've seen for decades. Look, I'm sorry, but that's life. Yeah. That's accountability. We want transparency. We want accountability. And we just want some form of it too. So, I mean, it's just kind of, hey, this binder of information you already have. Look, no, we're sick of this. We want to see the UFO files. We want to know who shot Kennedy. We want to see who went to Epstein Island.
Yeah.
So, I mentioned earlier, okay, this is going to cause, shock waves. Huge disruption. People are going to freak out. You know what a Democrat would do in that situation? They would start pushing through all their other agenda, using that as a smokescreen while they're pushing everything else through.
That's true.
So, I mean, look, I don't know. Is this going to hurt our foreign policy? Well, maybe we need a different foreign policy if, that this is part of that.
And that's part of the mandate anyway, which is a different foreign policy, right? Not trying to be a world empire and telling everyone around the world what they're supposed to do and how to run their countries, and a lot of the times choosing who runs their countries for them. But yeah, with this Epstein stuff, shockwaves, disruptions, all of that, sure. But where's the disruption going to be? It's not going to disrupt my life.
Yeah, good point.
It's not going to disrupt your life. The only people whose lives are going to be disrupted are the people implicated in this. So why shouldn't their lives be disrupted?
People that had sex with minors that were...
Right, who raped children. And we're saying, oh, no, it's going to cause a lot of turmoil. For whom? It doesn't affect my day-to-day. It only affects the day-to-day of the people who participated in this. And if you rape children, which is what that is, what this whole thing is about, your life deserves to be disrupted. Yeah. And you deserve to go to prison at a minimum for the rest of your life, especially if you participate in something on the scale of what Epstein was doing, who, and I had to do a refresher on this before we went on, who reached a plea deal in 2008 with the Department of Justice for sex trafficking of minors. And as part of that deal, co-conspirators were not implicated in whatever information he handed over to the Department of Justice and the FBI, right? One of the documents that was released that I think we already had, right, which was that Jeffrey Epstein, gave information over to the FBI as agreed. And so everyone's like, oh, Epstein is an FBI asset, right? And all of that stuff. He reached a plea deal the first time around. The second time around, he doesn't. He goes in prison and kills himself. How much worse was this second case? How much more information was revealed that, someone killed him in, a high security, maximum security federal prison? That, I mean...
So
people need to be held to account.
Well, yeah, and we heard stories about FBI agents are getting caught deleting files, burning files, shredding files.
In the New York office.
Yeah. I mean, wait, what do you mean you're catching FBI agents doing this, and we aren't seeing video of FBI agents in handcuffs on the evening news?
Yeah.
It's another one where it's like, look, you're an individual. Yeah, you might work for the government, but that's not. You don't get to just. Oh, I was just in my official capacity that I was destroying, I was committing felonies.
Yeah.
No, you people need to go to jail. I mean, you think about like all those Tom Clancy movies where it's like, oh my, I'm going to go into work, I'm going to break into my computer system and I better not get caught. What's going to happen if you get caught? Hey, Bill, hey, you stop doing that. You go home. I'll see you on Monday. Have a good weekend. It's essentially, what this is coming down to.
Yeah. But, everyone was... at least in MAGA or on the right, was really upset by, this announcement because Pam Bondi said, I have the files on my desk, right? And then what was released? And then the next day after that release, it's reported that I think she said a whistleblower reached out to her and said that, FBI agents at that New York office are destroying Epstein files and they haven't given you everything, right? Like there's more than 1,000 documents that they haven't given you. And so she comes out and Kash Patel comes out and they say, all right, we thought we had everything. We obviously don't. But MAGA's kind of ripping them a new one, saying that they're implicated in this and that they're responsible for this. Maybe they are. I don't know. But we've been talking about deep state politics for the last 8 years. It's really the FBI isn't part of the deep state. Like the FBI and the intelligence communities are the constitute the agencies that Trump has immediate control over? Yeah. I don't think so.
So you want to have some fun, go on Twitter and start doing searches along the lines of when will the arrest begin? And I mean, you'll get flooded with this. I mean, people, look, you tell us all the fraud that you are uncovering, trillions of dollars worth of fraud. All these people that are ripping off the government, you've got their names. You're telling us about, you've got all the Epstein Island logs. You're willing to take action on this. People want to see arrests. I mean, okay, maybe you got to get everything lined up before you go, but people are only going to be patient with the Trump administration for so long about this. They want to see mass arrests. Yeah. We don't care if you have to arrest, half the members of Congress. Your supporters have your back.
Even Republicans, too.
Yeah.
You know what? Frankly, if Donald Trump's on that list and there's proof that he participated, lock him up.
Yeah.
All for it.
Yeah.
Like, let's not be hypocrites about this. Oh, my child rapists are better than your child rapists. No, screw that. You don't get to hurt children. Lock them up, every single one, even the people that we might like. Yeah. That's what it's going to take.
So, I mean, people are only going to be patient with this for so long.
Yeah.
And... Trump is he's got a lot of momentum going right now. He's got tons of support, a lot more than people thought. He's getting more support as this goes on. We can actually, buck a trend and have a very successful midterm election cycle for Republicans.
Oh, yeah.
If there are no arrests by the midterms, forget that. Democrats are going to take everything back.
Yeah. Yeah, but this is a huge chance to prevent, that midterm switch that you typically see. And just to be perfectly clear, I do not believe that Donald Trump was involved in this, right? I'm just saying, as a matter of principle, that, the consequences should be leveled against everyone equally, and not just fines or 18 months.
Yeah.
Right? Life in prison. That's where you belong. And also further proof that, these Trump and other people who are pushing this are not implicated is that they're pushing it, and they're pushing for release of the documents. And so why would any of their constituents, their voter base, right, their support, be satisfied with the measly 200 pages that don't list any names? Right?
Yeah.
Of course they're not going to be. You've made a big stink about this, and people want to see where the stink's coming from. So you wouldn't even make that promise or pursue this in the first place as rigorously as the administration has been, unless you weren't implicated or weren't involved in this.
So, I mean, the way this should have played out yesterday was you have all your report. You don't just do your favorite influencers. You actually have, all the reporters that you can have in the Oval Office at one time. You hand them the binders.
Yep.
And as they start opening those binders, you start by saying, all the names in the binders in front of you are currently being arrested as we speak.
Yeah,
that would have been the way to
awesome.
do it. That would have been the cinematic Tom Clancy way for this to end.
Yeah. But also, this has huge implications for the JFK and the MLK files, right?
Well, yeah, expectations, you mean?
Well, if we're hung up on Epstein, we're going to be hung up on the MLK and the JFK file releases as well.
Yeah.
Right? Or 9/11, documents for that matter. All the stuff that people really want to know about.
Well, the 9/11 would never happen in my lifetime because, we got to wait, 30 years after everyone's dead that was alive at the time.
50 years, right, is the law. But yeah, so MLK and the Kennedy files, those are going to be a while too, I wouldn't be surprised if they're shredding those files right now as well if they, weren't already or haven't already.
Yeah. So let's just, obviously social media has gone nuts. Mike and I, this one is our favorite one. So scene from the girl Mean Girls for, it's been probably 20 years since I saw this movie, but I think this scene really reflects what we actually, a good idea of what we wanted to see yesterday.
Let's hope we get that later. Let's hope we get that in a few days or a week or whatever it is. But yeah, here's the subjects, right? Okay, Rachel McAdams, right, who's throwing all these papers around the hall, right, from the burn book.
From all the secrets.
Right, all the secrets. All right, that's Trump, that's Patel, that's Bondi, that's Vance, right? Who's running around in the halls? All the frickin' pedophiles, all the rapists. That's what I want. Yeah. Absolutely. Fingers crossed we get that.
Sounds good. Yeah. So we haven't given up hope yet, but it's we better get there eventually and sooner rather than later. But anyway, it's been a long week, a lot going on. So thank you for joining us for this edition of the MacIver Report. I'm sure next week will be just as nuts. So until then, I'm Bill Osmulski. I was joined by Michael Lucas. And have a great weekend and see you next time.